Hello, boys and girls. Good morning. I hope this finds you well. You can see I'm working in the Chapter 5 Using Bar Models addition and subtraction packet that you got either Monday or Tuesday at school here today. So you should have done page 61 on Monday, and then you should have done page 62 on Tuesday. And now today we're going to move into pages 63 and 64. So today you're going to complete both of these pages. We're not going to go into 5.1 yet, just page 63 and 64. So I'm going to pause to get myself set up here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And today I'm going to ask you to make sure you pause the video when I tell you to, so you can complete your part of the assignment and then start it back up again to double check your work. So we'll do one problem at a time. I'll read the problem for you, and then we'll look at part A, and then I'll show you part A, and then we'll look at part B, and then I'll show you part B, and then we'll keep going through each problem like that. So every time you should have a self-check in there that says, am I doing this right, or am I not doing this right? And then when you get more comfortable on page 64, if you're there, then you can move to working independently as long as you come back to the video and check your work. So let me get zoomed in and ready, and we will get started. I am focused in here on number 5 on page 63, and it says Leela drinks 1,466 milliliters of water a day. Mark drinks 2,895 milliliters more than Leela. Part A says, how much water does Mark drink? And that's where we're going to focus first. So what I'm going to do, I'll do this one. I know what I said in the directions, but I'll do this one with you just to get you started, because each one of these bar models is a little bit different. So let's take a look at what we know. I know there's Leela, and I know she drinks 1,466 milliliters of water a day. And I know there's Mark, who drinks 2,895 milliliters more than Layla. So if I'm going to set this up in a bar model, then I have to think about how am I going to put this together. And we've talked about the fact that if it's addition, they're side by side. And so to find out how much total water Mark drinks, I know I have to add these two numbers together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one bar, and I'm going to draw that out. And this is Leela and how much water she drinks. So Leela drinks 1,466 milliliters. And if you don't know what milliliters are, that's okay. It's just a unit of measurement. So I just have 1,466, and I put ml in there for milliliter. That's Layla. Now I also know that Mark drinks 2,895 milliliters more than Layla. So this is what Mark's consuming. Actually, this is how much more Mark is drinking than Layla. And this number is 2,895. And this is how much more Mark drinks. And this is where bar models get a little bit confusing. But if I put something up here, this would be how much total Mark drinks. Okay, so Layla's here and Mark is here. And so as I look at this, I think to myself, well, Mr. Hajdukovic, you might have made a mistake here. You might have drawn the wrong bar model, because to me, this looks like a comparison model now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for a second and think about what I want to do. because I don't want to erase my mistake, because I want you to know that mistakes get made. So I'm going to pause it and I'm going to adjust my bar models and see if I can come up with one that I like a little bit better. Okay, so this is how I solved my problem. It turns out that they look very similar, but I did go through and make my comparison model here. Okay, remember I'm comparing. But what I found out was I still use the addition part of my comparison model, because my question mark is up here. This is what I don't know, how much total Mark drinks. So I still need to add together what Leela drinks and how much more Mark drinks than Leela to get this number. So I wasn't altogether wrong, but I like this setup a little bit better. You can keep whichever one you like, and you can continue to move forward, but I'm going to work with this one. Either way, I know I still need to add those two numbers together. So 2,895 plus 1,466. And if I do my addition, 5 plus 6 is 11, so my 1 goes there, and then I carry my 10. 1 and 9 is 10, plus 6 more is 16, so my 6 goes down. I carry my 1, or in this case my 100. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 4 more is 13, and I carry that, what turns into 1,000, over. And then 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 more, this is a 1, is 4. So I end up with 4,361. So that is my number that goes in this box. And you'll notice I paused there for a long time because I kept thinking to myself, well, Mr. Idukovich, what should you do? Should you just start the video over, or should you kind of let them see some of the mistakes? Because you saw before too, I didn't have the problem I was solving all the way on the screen. Well, that's unfortunate, but I still have to work my way through, and we have to solve those little hiccups along the way. So hopefully you ended up with a model that looks like this, and a calculation that looks like this. And so then you're done with this piece. We're not going to go through and write the sentence. Essentially, we know that Mark drank 4,361 milliliters of water. That one was pretty confusing, so I'm glad I did it with you. Now we're going to take a look at how much water do they drink in all, because this one is a little bit different, and this will allow you to see when you use the side-by-side model. And this time it's not super confusing. The only thing that's confusing is which numbers to use, because now you have 3 different numbers. You have this one, which we said was the total that Mark drinks, and you have this one, which is the total that Leela drinks. Okay, so for this problem, I don't need this number, so I'm going to leave that one out of the mix, and I'm going to make my bar models using only this number and this number. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first bar, and this one is Leela, and Leela drank, what she drank doesn't change, 1,466 milliliters. And then I'm going to add on the total that Mark drank. So my bar here is going to be, it's going to be a lot longer than the other one if I'm going to try and draw it to scale, but I don't have to make it perfect. But it is going to be longer. And Mark drank a total of 4,361 milliliters. So all I'm going to do now that I've set it up and I know that it's addition and I know my model's correct this time, I don't have to rework anything. I'm just going to solve my addition calculation here. So 4,361 plus 1,466 will tell me how much they drank altogether. So in this case, what I'm looking for is right here. How much total did they drink? So I'm going to do my calculations. 1 plus 6 is 7. 6 plus 6 is 12. I drop my 2. I carry that 100, or that 1 over. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 more is 8. I don't need to carry anything, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So they drank a total of 5,827 milliliters. What I want you to do at this point, just so numbers don't get confusing, is I want you to take your pencil and just circle your answers for each problem. So I'm going to add milliliters to this one, and then I'm going to circle it because this is my answer for question A. And if it's circled, then that tells me as your teacher, this is the number, the final number I'm looking at. And for B, I'm going to circle this number. And those are my two answers. Part A is 4,361 milliliters. Part B should be 5,827 milliliters. But again, I'm glad we did this together because you can see how it gets a little bit confusing. And I'm glad I left my mistakes in there so that you can see that even I, who's done this for a number of years, still continues to make mistakes. And I really have to think about how I'm going to set it up and how I'm going to teach it. And it's not as clean as I would have wanted it to be. But again, I'd rather you see my mistakes and be open about them than to just restart the video and show something that might be a little bit cleaner. So hopefully you learned a little from that too. But I am going to move on to number 6, and we're just going to read it. And then I'm going to pause the video, and you're going to see if you can figure out how to set these up yourself. And again, like I showed you before, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to cross things out or erase things. That's okay. You're not going to do it perfect the first time every time. So number 6 says, Brad has 1,300 stamps. He has 938 Canadian stamps, and the rest are Malaysian stamps. And the question A is, how many Malaysian stamps does Brad have? So I'm going to go ahead and pause it here, and I'm going to think about what I want to do, and then I'm going to do it. I want you to pause the video so that you can think about what you might want to do, and then we'll come back together and compare what we've done after we're all finished. If you've come back, it means you should have some kind of an answer. And this is what I came up with. So I'll explain my thoughts to you, and then you can just check to see how you did it. As long as you came up with 362 Malaysian stamps, you should be okay. But this is how I set it up. So I knew Brad's total number of stamps. So I made a total line, and I said 1,300. And I also knew that he had 938 Canadian stamps. So of this total, this much of it was Canadian. But what I didn't know was how many Malaysian stamps he had. So it's a little bit, again, it's a little bit tricky because I don't know exactly what to do right away. So, but as soon as I start drawing my bars, I start to figure it out. And this one turned into a comparison model again. And so it wasn't very clear because I don't have two people. I have a total, and I have the different types of stamps he has. But either way, this is my missing number. So when I did my calculation, I took 1,300 and I subtracted away the 938, and that's what tells me how many of the total stamps are Malaysian. So this number, this green question mark, turns into 362 right here. And if I do that backwards and I say, well, I know that all these numbers have to work together, so 938 plus 362 should give me that total number of 1,300. And that is how I solved problem 6A. So I'm going to go down and we're going to do problem 6B. And then I know I said number 63 and 64, but we're cutting it after that today because otherwise it's going to turn into too much for you. So we'll try and continue on with some more independence tomorrow. But if they keep throwing these problems at us, we might have to work through a little bit more slowly. So B says, which type of stamps does Brad have fewer of? How many fewer stamps does he have? And so I'm going to set this one up, and then you pause the video and see if you can set it up too. And then you can start it at any time just to look through and see what I'm doing. So if you get frustrated and you can't figure it out, just unpause it and work with me through the video. All right, here we go. So I set this one up as a comparison model also because it is a subtraction problem. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is this fewer tells me that they mean which type of stamps does he have the least of. And so when I look at the numbers 938 and 362, I know he has the least amount of Malaysian stamps. But then it says, how many less stamps? How many fewer stamps does he have? So I took my Canadian stamps and I made my first bar. That's from this number. It said 938. And then from A, I figured out that he has 362 Malaysian stamps. So I made a bar for that here. Now what I don't know is this missing piece. How many more do I need here to get to this 938? So because I don't have all the parts, I have to subtract that away. So 938 minus 362 should tell me what this number here is. So if I make my calculations, 8 minus 2 is 6. 3 minus 6 I can't do, so I have to regroup here. This becomes 8, 13. 13 minus 6 I know is 7. 8 minus 3 I know is 5, which leaves me with 576. So I know that Brad has 576 fewer Malaysian stamps than he has Canadian stamps. Okay. So however you word that or phrase it, as long as you know my missing number here is 576. And this would be fewer stamps would be my label. So we're cutting that one off today because this was a long one. I appreciate you watching it all the way through and I appreciate you listening to it. But we're going to stop there for today and we'll continue on with this tomorrow. And then tomorrow we'll look at page 64. So I know in the title of the video I said that we were going to be watching or doing both pages, but we actually ended up only doing page 63. And so this page should still be blank and we'll look at that tomorrow. Page 63 should be complete. Thanks, kids. Bye.